Please do not eat syllabus. Poop sonogram. Is that a thing? How dumb do you think I am? So do you guys want to know how to get your professor to hate you? Teachers are people too. I don't know if you guys knew this, but we're people. Do not offer sexual favors. If you need to do sexual favors at me in order to get a C, that means you can't follow basic instructions. And if you can't follow basic instructions, I'm not letting you anywhere near my basic erections. They're basic, yes, I like pumpkin spice. I don't want to imagine what kind of BJ you would give if you're getting a D in my class. Like, talk about teeth as a dangling modifier. And by the way, I've never once had a student even get close to attempting to offering sexual favors. That's never happened. I've had students be kind of flirty, but that's always the A students, not the B students. I think everybody should substitute teach at some point. There's a child, there's a teenager. Tim, stop doing that. And they look at you and they understand the words that are coming from your mouth. And then they just keep doing it. And so you tell them again and they keep doing it. And so you're like, hey, seriously? Or I'm gonna have to like give you a detention. And they just keep doing it. And I'm like, all right, I wrote a detention. Here's your detention. You have to leave now. And they're like, no. This is infuriating. Happens with dogs too. When I'm like, Pepper, don't you eat that. Don't you eat that. And she looks at me and is like weighing her options like, he's gonna be mad. I think I'm gonna do it anyway. I know you know what I'm saying. Remember to like, ferment, imbibe. They understand and they're ignoring it. Fucking infuriating. And I understand why cops are dicks. I understand why the Stanford prison experiment went the way it did. Although allegedly that's an overblown thing and not as like they told you in the movies. Do you guys know about Rate My Professor? I feel like kids these days don't use Rate My Professor. It was like a big deal in like the 2000s. If you go to leave a review and there hasn't been one yet, then the teacher's not in the system. So you have to be like, here's a new teacher to add, and it takes you 12 seconds. And the students that would leave a bad review were too lazy to do the like, create new professor. And so they just didn't leave one. Literally, it was like 8 years in, I wasn't even on Rate My Professor. And then I got a review. It was a negative one. And then it was like a week later, I got a second review and it was a positive one. I was like, all right. So I think because once one student made my profile or whatever, then it was like, oh, more will come in. I've had a lot of students and only 3 have ever left a review. So think about like why you would go out of your way to go leave a review is because you got a bad grade or you're mad at the teacher for some reason. So think about, I've busted how many kids for plagiarism. So I'm going to read you from a negative Rate My Professor. He had us turn in a paper as a final draft. After we turned it in, he told us it was actually a rough draft. He said he did this on purpose to teach us a lesson. Then he told us he wouldn't look over our rough drafts because he did not have time, but that when we turn our papers in, they should be flawless, immature and rude, 1 out of 5 stars, and 4 out of 5 for difficulty. Very, very tough. I learned pretty fast, and you guys probably know this too. When you have a rough draft due, and then it can be a peer review or whatever, and then you have a final draft due, what does that mean? In your brain, it means half of a paper that's crappy is due, and then I'll, when the final draft's due, that's when I'll like work on it and make it kind of good. What I do, a little gambit, is I don't tell them about rough draft, nothing about rough draft. I just say the paper is due on this day. And then people write their paper, and their paper's done, and they turn it in, and then I say, good job, you turned it in. You have a week to work on it still. Most of good writing is about revision. And when the only thing you ever do is a vomit draft right before it's due, you're not doing any revision. That's just a rough draft. In a perfect world, I guess, when I say a rough draft is due, you would make a whole paper and like kind of polished a little bit, ready to turn in, and then you would have a week and you could work on it. But in reality, what happens is rough draft is due, you turn in a piece of crap. If you went through the trouble of doing like a real rough draft and revision on your own, you're a good student, and then you turned it in at midnight, guess what? You're good. You don't have to do anything. You just turn in the final draft. You just resubmit it. But I'm giving you this 11th hour reprieve from the executioner's scythe. And so this student, and the Rate My Professor, he told us he did this on purpose to teach us a lesson. God forbid teachers teach a lesson. Like, what the fuck? And also it's like I'm being so punitive. I'm punishing you, but giving you an extra week to work on it. Then he told us he wouldn't look over our rough drafts because he didn't have time. If I was going to give you feedback and comment on them, how much time do I have to do that for all the fucking essays in all my classes? Because if I don't have a week, because you have to turn in your final in a week. So I have like, what, 4 days, 3 days to go grade 40 essays? Doesn't make any sense. Like literally, I couldn't do that. It would be impossible. And then he said that when we turn our papers in for real, they should be flawless. No, this isn't. All right, as an English professor, one of the biggest things I can do to help you and to teach you is to grade your paper individually. Like lecture and whatever and readings, those are all whatever, worth something. But when you turn in an essay and then I sit and look at your essay for like 45 minutes, point out all the little writing things you can improve and point out mistakes and point out like, there's a lot of writing things that I can help you with. If you make a vomit draft that's full of errors that you can see, then I'm just going to be distracted by those and not go into the like deeper, more involved, more interesting ways of improving your writing. You should turn it in when to you it seems flawless. I've looked through it. I've fixed all the things I could find. I don't see any more flaws. Now you give it to me, and now I get to extend your knowledge and show you things that I think are flaws or places you can improve. So if you turn into me the paper that's as good as you can make it, and then I go, oh, actually you can improve this, that's helping you become a better writer. If you turn into me a piece of shit you pooped out at midnight, and you could spot all these flaws if you just took the time to look through them, and then I spend my time pointing out the flaws that you yourself can see, that's just a waste of fucking everybody's time. Immature and rude. There's no fucking way I'm immature and rude. It's fucking bullshit. And then calling me my difficulty 4 out of 5 is fucking hilarious. I'm not a tough grader. Trust me, I'm not a tough grader. I was looking through some Rate My Professor of some of my colleagues, because I don't have very many reviews. And one of my coworkers, here's from the Rate My Professor. I couldn't stand his class. It was creative writing, and we spent half of every class period workshopping students' writing. I just don't think I should pay thousands of dollars to read other students' work. This is literally what a workshop class is. That's not a criticism of the professor. It's a criticism of the concept of workshop. That's like if you were to leave a review of a math teacher and be like, math is like not useful, so this is a bad teacher. I remember looking up one of my good friends on Rate My Professor, and it's like he's really moody and seems hungover, and he plays favorites, and if he thinks you're dumb, he doesn't hide it. I was like, yep. So one of my classes, they have to give these presentations, right? So we have class time set aside for them to give presentations. This kid blew off, we do 3. He blew off the first 2, wasn't there, missed his time, whatever. So he wants to make them up when he's missed the first 2. Okay, so he's trying to do 3 at the end of the semester. Most of my colleagues would not have let him make up a missed speech. You missed the day, no excuse. A month later, you're like, yeah, can I do all 3 speeches even though I missed the first 2? No, it's just a definite no. And I'm more lenient. I let him do 2. I shouldn't have let him do 2. I should have only really let him do 1. Give an inch, they'll kill your grandma, right? So he does 2 on the last 2 days of the semester. He's not been in class, right? We have all these presentations all through the semester. He's been missing those. And so in his presentation, he does some of the things I taught in class exactly not to do. It's like, here, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. He then complains to me about my grade, about how unfair I'm being when I shouldn't have even let him do the second one. I'm already being way too lenient. And then he starts comparing his presentation and saying it was way better than this student's and it was way better than this student's. And it's like, well, you don't know what their grade is. You didn't witness your presentation. We're so fucking blind to what it looks like. You will do stuff in a presentation and not even realize it. I once had a girl in class who was presenting, and she is gesturing very wildly, and she whacked her hand on the edge of the table and split it open, and it was just pouring blood. And I had to stop her because she was still gesturing and was spraying blood and hadn't noticed, right? And I guarantee you, if I hadn't stopped her, if it hadn't bled that much or something, 40 minutes after class, I'm like, why am I bleeding? She had no idea. I've had students while giving presentations, we'll fidget. We'll do fidgety things while we're presenting. I had a student, he reaches in his pocket and he's just playing with his keys in his pocket. And I was like, all right, that's stupid, but all right, I'll write down, don't do that. He then whips his keys out and he's like flipping them around. He's just like wheeling them around like he's got a revolver. He's spinning it. It's like, what are you doing? And I wrote, and it's like, hey, don't do that, in his grade. And he had no idea that he did that. So the fact that some kid is like telling me that I don't know how to grade a presentation, you think that's gonna make me give you a better grade? Like, holy shit. Here's some don'ts for you. Go over your teacher's head to like their boss to try to get them to be more lenient. If you get a super, super strict asshole professor and they're being completely unreasonable, maybe. If they're being reasonable at all, do not go over their heads. Do not go to their department head or whatever. We do things we call norming, which is where we'll like grade the same thing. This is shit we do in the summer. We'll watch a student presentation and we'll all grade it to make sure that we're all like grading roughly equally. And I know that I'm on the more lenient end. For example, my old boss, one time at a meeting, she was talking, just glowing about how like this student turned this essay in. It was so good. It's this great essay. It was so good all these ways. This is so smart. And I was like, what grade do you give them? She said a 98. Like, oh, not 100. She goes, oh, I never give hundreds. No, that's not true. One time I gave 100 and I regretted it. I give a good handful of hundreds per class per semester. A paper, all right, as 100. So when a student thinks that I'm being ridiculously harsh as a grader, A, it's hilarious, and B, does not go well for them. They try to go to my boss to be like, hey, you need to grade nicer. Odds are she's going to be like, why are you being stricter to me? So I know like when I was a student and we were talking about our teachers and how dumb they are, they did this stupid thing and teachers are just dumb and they did idiot move and all this didn't make any sense. And then when you become a teacher and you're spending your time listening to teachers complain about how fucking stupid the kids are and the kids are idiots and it's like, you know, everyone's the main character in their story. And I know that like the truth is somewhat in the middle. When I hear people complaining about teachers, I'm probably like, did they really do something that dumb, or are you misrepresenting it, or you don't understand it? And when I hear my coworkers talk about how like, oh, these students are dumb, they don't even understand this assignment, and they did this stupid thing, I'm like, maybe your assignment's not super clear. Maybe it's in the middle. I don't know. And there's one particular coworker of mine who she's crazy, and like I would not want to be in her class. I hear her complain about the students. I'm like, yeah, I bet your syllabus is really fucking confusing and your assignments make no sense. Like, I'm probably with the students on this one. Sometimes the complainer's right, and sometimes they're completely full of shit. And I'll give you an example. I was at a brewery and I ran into a former student. He told me that a student who I had busted for plagiarism, that student had told people in the class that I had busted him, gotten him in trouble because he cited too many sources on his paper. Not that it was plagiarism. So I'm just imagining like, oh yeah, I used 20 sources on his paper and the teacher said that's wrong and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what an idiot. I was like, no, it was plagiarism. Like, good Lord. So here's what really happened, all right? The requirement on the essay is like, you have to have 3 sources, which means that most students turn in a paper with 3 sources, maybe 4. Okay. And his paper, you go to the works cited page, it has like 25 sources, which is like, why? That's not a thing that happens. This raises red flags. I don't know why you would do that. You're just a super student and you just found 5 times as many sources as required? What are you doing? So I Google part of his works cited page and I find like a blog post. And basically he has just plagiarized this blog post. And this blog post has like 25 sources cited and there's citations like within the text. So he's basically copied and pasted this blog post and then taken a thesaurus to it. So it's not like word for word the blog post. He's like changing things here and there, but he's using the citations from the blog. Like he didn't look up the source and then cite it. The works cited page is because, well, he had to use all the citations from this blog post. You don't put sources in your works cited page if you didn't look at them. If he's being honest, he would just cite this one blog post. That's his one source. There's a part in the paper where the dude is citing 2 different sources within one citation, and the student didn't realize that and just like pasted both of those. So like his works cited page, there's an entry in the works cited page that is actually like 2 different sources, but they're like mashed into one because he didn't understand what he was reading. So I caught him lying about it. I was like, all right, this source right here, where did you go track down this source? And he got it. He's like, oh yeah, I looked it up on blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, but you've cited a book. Like, did you go get a physical book, or did you find like a PDF online? He's like, oh no, I got the book. It was in our library. Well, that's interesting because it's not in our library system. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was at this other library. Oh, or maybe it's this blog post that has all of your sources and you plagiarize directly from it. Interesting. So anyway, he turned him getting caught lying to me repeatedly and plagiarizing into I got him in trouble for using too many sources. Okay. I had a student is not showing up to anything after like a month of not doing anything. He was like, email, wants a meeting. It's a red flag whenever students want to meet me in my office. It's like, why can't this be an email? The reason is they want to be in person so that they can look you in the eye, so that they can pity dump some story on you so that you feel sad for them. That's what I hear when I hear, can we meet in your office? And he's just telling me about how he hasn't been doing anything in class and he wants to make it up. How do I make it up? I'm going to be a super good student going forward. I just missed some stuff. Okay, here's what I got to do. Okay. Goes to class that day. Doesn't anymore for the rest of the month. 2 months in the semester. Another email. Hey, can we meet in your office? Okay, what is it? Well, I need to make it up. What do I got to do? I'll be the super good student. Tell me what to do. I'll make everything up. So I tell him what to do. He doesn't do those things. Come like October, he's asking me to give him an incomplete for the semester, right? And an incomplete, what that's for is, say, right before finals, you get super sick, somebody dies, and you've got to leave the country. And you've like been keeping up. You have like a B, you've got a passing grade in the class, then you get an incomplete, and then you have like the next semester in order to like make those things up. It's not for people who are failing or not doing anything or not showing up at all. You're passing, you're actually in class, giant extenuating circumstance right at the end of the semester, you can get an incomplete. You come to me 2 months before the end of the semester, not showing up to class, not doing the assignments, and then are like, can I take an incomplete? No. Why not? What's your extenuating circumstance? I'm busy. And then he tells me the extenuating circumstance is that last semester, he took a bunch of incompletes. So this semester, he's been making up those classes from last semester. So what I'm hearing is, last semester you didn't do anything. You bullied several teachers into giving you an incomplete. And now you're having to make up all these other classes during the next semester while you're supposed to be doing these classes. It shouldn't take that long to make up an incomplete. It should only be like, oh, you missed one project. You make that up. Okay. It shouldn't be the whole semester worth of stuff. That's not incomplete. And he keeps wanting to meet in my office, and I'm like, all right, we're going to just talk about this again because it's a no. It's still a no. Finally, I just say, look, even if you talked me into it, and I was like, fine, I'll give you an incomplete, I would have to take this to the department head and be like, hey, I want you to sign off on this incomplete. And the department head would ask me, what's the extenuating circumstance? And I would say, they're trying to make up a bunch of other incompletes. And they'd say, no, that's no. So my boss is never going to sign off on that. He took that to mean go over my head, email my boss directly, try to meet with her. Of course, it's not an email. He's trying to meet with her. And she's like, what is this about? An email. I'm not meeting with you. See, stricter than me. So he's emailing her his sob story about how I won't give him an incomplete. And she's like, I would have already just failed him and dropped him from my class. What are you doing? And I'm like, I know, I'm being too nice. This is what happens when you go over my head. My boss is like, why haven't you already kicked him out of your class with an F? Can you guys tell me if I'm a sociopath? I was looking at the student newspaper, and there was a death announcement. It made me kind of chuckle, and then I felt like I'm a sociopath. So I'm going to tell you this news article, and you tell me, is it kind of chuckle-worthy, or am I a sociopath? Are we all sociopaths? A man with his name and a woman with her name were found dead in a car by police. The police think the man killed the woman and then committed suicide. The man and woman were not in a relationship, but were just friends. Period. End of article. He got friend-zoned in his fucking death announcement. What's next? Getting cock-blocked by the Today Show? He leaves behind many women who he was just friends with and no children. So it's just me. I'm the sociopath. All right, got it. You think she shows up in heaven, and then that dude shows up in heaven, and she's like, oh, can we just see other dead people? I think this is in Haley Joel Osment's future. I can't write enough The assignment's 10 pages and I wrote 5 pages. And I said everything there is to say. 5 pages covered it all. Anything more would just be fluff. I don't want to waste your time or my time. 5 pages said it all. I call this the 60% rule. If the assignment is write a 10-page paper, students will write about a 5.5, 6-page paper. They'll get 60% of the way there and go, I don't know, that's just all there is to say. I did it all. Anything more would be fluff. If the assignment is write a 20-page paper, I'll get 12-page papers turned in. They're like, 12 pages, that's all there is to say. I said it all. Any more would be fluff. I will use the same assignment prompt in a 100 class, in a 200 level class, and a 300 level class, and all changes the page requirement. And I will have students in the 300 level, 12 pages. That's all there is to say. And in the 100 level, they're like, man, 3 pages. There's nothing more to say about this. I really kind of want my 300 level students to come to my 100 class and be like, oh man, I couldn't think of anything more than 12 pages. And those 100 level students would be like, oh my God, 12 pages. Think of more shit to say. It's not that complicated. I'm not looking for fluff. I want you to have more opinions and more research, not fluff. See, fluff is what happens when you're like, I'm done thinking. I'm going to try to make this paper longer without braining anymore. Less brain, just type. I'll get the thesaurus out. I'll do that. And I will tell you, I would rather have a fluff-free paper that's shorter than a fluffy paper that meets the length requirement. You know what I would really rather have? You to have more to goddamn say. And it's funny how magically, if I make the paper requirement longer, the amount you have to say keeps growing. You keep finding more. But once you get to about 60%, you're like, oh, that's enough. I can fluff the rest of the way. Step 1, get 60% of the way there. Step 2, say, I'll just fluff the rest of the way. Step 3, nah, I don't want to fluff it. I'll be honest and say I didn't want to fluff it. Step 4, profit. Okay. Oh, and don't make the font 13. You're turning the shit in online, people. It says the font size. It shows me the, like, how dumb do you think I am? Extra credit. Oh my God, don't ask me for extra credit if you haven't done the assignments. I put thought into the assignments and I have to like craft the whole like sheet, all the rules, like how they say on things like, don't attempt to swallow this entire mug because somebody tried. That's why our goddamn assignment sheets and syllabuses are so fucking long, is because we've had students try to swallow the syllabus. You gotta put it on the syllabus. Please do not eat syllabus. Regulations are written in blood. Syllabi are written in throat paper cuts. I don't know. So I put in a lot of thought on these assignments. I think about them and I try to sequence them. That's a thing. So you learn this and then you go and you build on that with the next assignment and you build on that with the next assignment. You guys don't care about pedagogy. All you want to know is asking for extra credit. I don't like you. That might sound like a brown nosing thing. Like, oh, can I do extra credit? Only if you've done everything and then you ask for extra credit. Might I think about it? So like, think about this. You do all this work and you think about your assignments and you write them out and all the long assignment sheet, and you've tweaked it from semester to semester and you're trying to like work out how to make this assignment really good and effective and creative and interesting and all those things. And then a student's like, yeah, I didn't do that. Can you create a new assignment for me to do? It's like, you're giving me more work. Why would I do that? Do that assignment. Don't ask me to do more work when you're asking for a favor. Good Lord. At Missouri, MU, a couple years ago, we had big protests, racist shit going on, and it all kicked off. People don't remember what started it, which was they found a poop swastika on the wall in a dorm. And I don't know that we've ever gotten to the bottom of which student has a swastika-shaped anus. You know, there's a dude out there spreading Nazi propaganda with his butt. That's ass Goebbels right there, right? So this was the first semester I was doing online after COVID. It's a big project, right? So I recorded lectures where I discussed the assignment, gave an example presentation in the style you were supposed to give, picking a topic the way you're supposed to kind of find your topic. Like every step along the way, I did an example. 2 hours of recorded lecture you can watch at your leisure, see what I had to say about it. There's also a sheet I've written out. It's like 2 pages explaining the assignment. I have a student email me and say, I don't understand the assignment. Can you explain it to me? And I said, have you read the assignment sheet and have you watched these lectures? And she said, yes. I've gone through all of those. I still don't understand the assignment. Can you explain it to me? I don't know any other ways of explaining it. If I did know more ways of explaining it, I would add those to the assignment sheet, or I would add more to the lecture where I explained it. If you have a specific question, I will gladly answer any question you have. Like, what do you not understand? What's your question? What do you not get? And they're just like, explain it to me. Now, here's the kicker. I have the data. Every lecture that I've posted, I can see who's watched it and how much they watched it. She had not even clicked on either of the lectures in question, and I had linked her to them specifically. Like, hey, have you watched these? And she said yes. She hadn't even clicked on them. She hasn't watched any of them. And then it's like she's watched like 9 minutes of lecture for the whole semester. So like, So instead of watching any of the recorded lectures, instead of reading any of the things I've written, she's just going to email me and ask me to like write a new assignment sheet in an email to you? What are you doing? This is how to get a professor to hate you. Ignore all the work they do. Ignore all the shit they've put online. And ignore all the tips and tricks we helpfully wrote out. And here's the assignment. Here's all the best ways I know how to explain it. Here's all the tips I know. Here's the do's and don'ts. I wrote all of that out. It's on the computer. You click a thing. There's all that information. Ignore that completely and just email me and be like, hey, can you explain this? There's a grade that's worse than F. It's WF. That's withdraw, fail. And I had a student, she's getting a D, and she's like, I don't know if I deserve the D. Do you think I deserve a D? Maybe I deserve an A. I will do anything. I was like, anything? Put that D in your A-hole. That'll work. She said, what would it take to get a B? And I said, put that D in your B-hole. And she said, what would it take to get a C? And I said, put that D in your C-hole. And she said, what's a C-hole? What a stupid cunt. Anyway, she got a WF, withdraw, fail. And then I gave her some plan B. None of that's true. It's a stupid joke I wrote. Hilarious. To fail my class, you have to just be lazy. Like, you could be an idiot, but if you like try and you do most of the stuff, you're getting at least a D. Getting an F means you're fucking lazy as shit. So you come to me with an F to be like, I'll do anything, I'll give you BJ. What's a fucking lazy ass BJ? Who in the world is lazy as fuck but gives good BJs? And that doesn't make sense. Talk about a teacher's pet. Do you get it? No, you don't, because you don't speak English. The number one tip for training a dog, I know everything. I'm an expert in a lot of things. Dog training, I'm a big expert. Rule number one of training a dog is that dogs don't speak English. So if you like say something to them and they don't understand, yelling it at them, they're still not going to understand because dogs don't speak English. Just make sure you understand that. One professor said that they included in their syllabus, hey, no squeak. He's going to be mad. I think I'm going to do it anyway. I know you know what I'm saying. Freya, like, ferment, imbibe. So them.